Good morning, everybody. It is a happy Wednesday, and it is September 17th. Today is the day. Today is the day that this is all going to happen. Today is the day that the Fed has a press conference at 2:30 this afternoon, and they will be announcing what their decision is, and their decision is going to be to cut the Fed rate. The only question is how much? Is it going to be 25 basis points? Is it going to be 50 basis points? That is the only question. It is pretty all but certain that the Fed rate is going to be dropped. Just a matter of how much. And how will that impact your buyers? How will that impact your sellers? How is that going to impact your business? When the reality is, none of any of this going on around us really should be impacting your business. And here's why. Because you should already be doing all the things that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks leading up to this. You should already have been doing all of these things. And if you did all of these things on a daily basis over the last 6 months, your business would be thriving regardless of what the Fed is doing today. So that's the reality of it. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some more of the text, some more of the headlines, and some more of how you can control that and how you can build more trust with people. Because right now, Jim Beggin says it all the time, trust is the currency of the future. So what your job is to build connection and trust with these people. We're also going to talk about why some people may not believe, even with all of the writing on the wall, that the rates are already in the 5.5% to 6%, that home sellers will be coming back on the market, that the Fed rate is going down, that the economy is in a position that is going to trigger these rates to have to drop, and they're trying to trigger more people into buying homes. So all the signs are there, and some people will still not believe you. And we're going to talk about why that is, what makes them think that way, and why they are going to continue to think in that process. And no matter what you say, they're not going to believe you, but how you can build trust and become a valued resource in their life, and they will start to fire and wire new connections in a different light that will get them to make a different decision. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and jump on in and let's get moving. Let's go. All right, so let's just start off with the message that we're going to be delivering to people and why we're delivering this message to them. We're delivering this message and we're trying to control this narrative. The narrative that's going on, or that's been going on, is we've had 2 years, over the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, and now 2025, mostly 24 and 25, where we've had the least amount of home sales that we've had in the previous 30 years. So since 2008, that was the lowest amount of home sales we had. The second lowest amount of home sales was 2024. And they're saying that 2025, they were predicting that it was going to be a little bit less. But I think that this fourth quarter picking up is going to inflect more buyers and more sellers. That's going to drive that number up. So 2025 is actually going to be a better year than 2024 by the time it's all said and done. These are the headlines that are out there. This is what the media is already saying. And we need to be a better job, and we need to be better at and do a better job of being the media for our consumers, for our sphere, for our social media, for everybody that we have the ability to impact. And let's get it straight. You impact every person that you come in contact with. You impact every person that you communicate with. So we need to do a better job at that. This is what the media is already saying, and this is before the Fed has even dropped any rate. Mortgage rates await Fed's next move. 25 basis point September rate cut is all but certain. Fed rate cut optimism lifts stocks. Gold's hit new record amidst Fed rate cut expectations. Mortgage rates dip to year low. Mortgage rates fall ahead of Fed meeting. Mortgage rates see biggest one-day drop in over a year. Global markets rise. Rates hover around 6.4%, a far cry from 2023 peak of nearly 8%. Commercial real estate market shows signs of recovery. Florida market shows signs of stability. 10.9% increase in mortgage applications due to falling rates. There was another headline that said the highest amount of mortgage applications since 2022. The most amount of mortgage applications have come in since 2022. When we start looking at all of the statistics that are around there, I'm going to pull up one more thing while we chat here real quick, just because I believe that this is what we talked about yesterday. And this one, this was the whole article was based around these simple statistics and facts. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling it up. This is what the article was about. According to economists, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage of 6% would make the median priced home affordable for an additional 5.5 million households. 5.5 million more households now have the ability to afford a home when mortgage rates go to 6%, including 1.6 million renters. So when that 30-year mortgage hits 6%, about 10% of those additional households would likely buy a home over the next 12 to 18 months. That's according to an NAR survey, and that's about 550,000 households. If they're predicting 4 million sales for this year, and we have 550,000 additional sales coming in, now it's not going to happen in the last 3 to 4 months, but I think there's a high likelihood that we see a lot more than 10% of the 5.5 million households that can't afford a home now because of the rates dropping. I think we see a lot more of them coming out. This is great for social media stories or reels. I did a reel yesterday based on this, and the day before, something you guys shared as well to put it in a post. This is what people need to see. This is what they need to hear. This is what sellers need to hear. This is what buyers need to hear. But I think that 10% number is really low. If we have 5.5 more million households that are able to afford a home, and they're saying 10% of them, see, I think that the number is going to go higher than that, because the rates, they say, go to 6%. If the mortgage rates go to 6%, well, the 30-year rates, people are getting 5.5 to 6% right now. So once people realize that, that's going to be more than 5.5 million households. If the rates went to 5.5, which people are already getting 5.5%, how many more million homes, or how many more million households will be able to afford a home if you have an additional 500,000, right? So probably additional million homes then. So then if 10% of those come back in the next 12 to 18 months, where are they going to come from? They're going to come from your sphere. They're going to come from your farm. They're going to come from all of those places. We have an offer on a single family home for a buyer, and there are 5 competing offers. It's not even a nice home. It's not underpriced. It's crazy. So again, some markets are going to go crazy. Some markets are not. Well, how do you know? We don't know which markets those are going to be. So what we need to do is we need to create more connections with people. We need to have more conversations with people. We need to be having more opportunities to connect with more people, because we don't know which one of these markets are going to fly off the shelves, which ones are going to sit, which buyers are going to jump in, which buyers can now afford a home that they didn't want to afford. Because, hey, what if this is a buyer who is searching for $600,000 homes, but because of rates was only able to afford 550, 575. So it doesn't mean that it's the affordability side. It's they can now afford the home they need and the home they want. So stop thinking in terms of just lower income, lower priced homes, because that's the affordability factor. So we know that when the rates go down, more people can afford the home they want. We have tons of sellers. If we look at the average was about 5.5 million home sales over the last 30 years. And we had 4 million home sales this year and last year so far. So if we've missed 1.5 million home sales last year, 1.5 million home sales this year, that's 3 million home sales that did not happen because of affordability, couldn't get the number that they want, didn't want to buy because of interest rates, listened to the media too much. So when we went through all of that and we see all these people that delayed, there's at least 3 million that did nothing over this last 2 years. Then we add 5.5 million more more people can now afford a home because of rates. Now we have 8.5 million more people that are potentially coming back into this market. And when we control this narrative, talk to more people, create more connections, that gives us better opportunities. So what does it take to create a connection? So creating a connection, we have to be able to use all of the skills that we have. So I'm going to jump around a little bit here and go back and forth between a few things. So let's talk about connections. When you're meeting somebody, you've got 7 seconds. 7 seconds is all that you have when you're meeting somebody, when you're talking to them, to get them to like you, to know you, to trust you, to answer those questions. Can I trust you? And do you care about me? So how do we convey that in such a short period of time? Most people try to use words. Most people are trying to say, hi, I'm Chris, Good to meet you. How you doing? What do you do for a living? I'm in real estate. I do this. That's awesome. You got a dog? I got a dog. You got this? Yeah, I got that. Well, you got kids? I got kids. You live there? I live there. So most of us try to use words, but we really need to focus on what that tribal subconscious connection is. People operate according to what their tribal thoughts and beliefs are. Their sphere is their tribe. It used to be your tribe was your tribe, whether you were nomads, whether you were hunters and gatherers, whether you lived on the plains, you lived in the mountains, you lived in the woods, that was your tribe. And you protected yourselves at all costs from other tribes. And you developed this tribal mentality, this subconscious thing that everybody else is bad, my people good, they're bad, not safe, my people safe. And people have carried that over to today. This tribal subconscious connection now is everybody else is not safe. Everybody else bad, me safe. Bad, safe. People around me that I know, safe. So, how do we create a connection with people that are already subconsciously a little uneasy about anybody from the outside who's not in their tribe? We find a way to connect with them and get into their tribe. And you use things by like going into neutral. When you go into neutral, you stop acting according to your subconscious tribal connection style mentality. And you start just wiping all of that clean. And I'm focusing on the person that's across me, whether it's in text messages, whether it's in person, whether it's in a Zoom, no matter what it is, I'm going to go into neutral and focus on just them so I could try to connect with them in the best way possible, the way that they communicate, the way that their tribe feels safe. So how do I do that? I just mimic and mirror the things that they're doing. If I'm texting, I'm going to mirror the words they're using. I'm going to mirror the way that they're texting. If they send me a long text, I'll send them a long text. If they send me 1 or 2 word answers, I send them 1 or 2 word answers. If they're full of emojis, I'm full of emojis. When I'm meeting them in person, if they put their hand out to shake, I put my hand out to shake. If they fist bump, I fist bump. If they like little one-arm hugs, I like little one-arm hugs. I go into neutral and I pay them the greatest the greatest respect that I can pay anybody, and that's to communicate with them the way they communicate and the way they feel safe, because the safest person in anybody's world is them. They are the safest person in their world. They know what they'll do, when they'll do it, how they'll do it, what they'll say, how they'll say it, what it means when they say it, what it means when their voice goes up, what it means when they lose eye contact. They know all of those things about themselves, and they know how safe they are. So if we want to become safe to them and be the safest person in their world, because this is all their subconscious is trying to do, it's trying to keep them safe, not successful. So if we want to be more safe to them, we should become more like them. And people like people who are like themselves for that very reason. So, how do we become more like them? We mirror and match. We mirror and match all of these opportunities here: eye contact, facial expressions, posture, the way that they're sitting. If they're slumped, we'll slump. Hand gestures. If they talk with their hands a lot, we talk with our hands a lot. If they're very stagnant, maybe we put our hands in our pockets the way they have their hands in their pockets. We match their energy. We match the mood, the tonality of the way they speak, the vocabulary they use, specific words that they're saying. We match those things. We use our visual, auditory, and kinesthetic abilities. If they're saying visual words, auditory words, kinesthetic words, we match those and we become more visual, more auditory and kinesthetic. We use our disc personality to use that. We break down the D, I, S, and C to be able to do that, because when we look at the D, I, S, and C here, we can see that 10% of the population is going to be that high D personality. So 10% of the population, if I'm a C or an I, and I'm trying to connect with a D, only 10% of the population is going to be like them. So I need to become more like them. Because if I'm an I, I'm only going to connect naturally with about 25 to 30% of the people that are out there. That's a high I. So I need to become more like a D. And if I don't, I risk losing that 10% of the population that I could potentially connect and communicate with and build rapport with. And I want every opportunity that I can get. So I want to be able to mirror and match DISC, body language, kinesthetics, all of that. I want to be able to mirror and match that so I can become more like them, so I become the safest person in their world. And here's the really cool thing. When we start doing that, when we start doing that and we stop trying to tell people things, we stop trying to tell them what to do, stop trying to tell them what they're going to have to do, what they should do, what the market is going to do. We stop telling and we start connecting, we start building trust. And the more trust that we build, the more we become more in their world and we become a part of their world. When they like us, know us, and trust us, people only do business with people that they like, know, and trust. So the more build trust we build, the more opportunity we create to be able to do business with them. So you're never going to change someone's identities or beliefs or change them. So most of us are trying to tell them information and tell them why they should become a buyer, why they should become a seller, when right now all we're doing is providing information and giving them something to try to connect with the people who are already thinking about buying and selling and who already have that opportunity. But we're also going to drop a little nugget inside of the brain of that person who really might not have been thinking about buying or selling because they believe the market's going to crash. They believe that interest rates are going to go to 3%. They believe now is the worst time to buy or sell. We're trying to drop a little nugget in them with some of the text messages that we have, our market shift scripts. Rates are dropping, buyers are finally starting to move again. Every micro market is reacting differently. So the real question is, what does this mean for you in your home? Let's connect now and see if right now is the right time for you to take advantage. I'm just trying to drop a little nugget. I'm not trying to convince them of anything. I want to see who out there is ready to have another conversation. Who out there was already thinking of it? Who out there wants to connect and communicate? So then when I can get in front of them, I start building more rapport. I start building connections. I start building trust. And now they like me, know me, and trust me. So when they do make that decision, and they're one of those buyers that in the next 12 to 18 months goes to make a decision, I'm the guy they're coming to. I'm the one that built the trust. I'm the one that they think about. And now let's go over and start thinking about some of the people who don't believe what we're saying. And this is where this really gets powerful for us. We need to understand that anybody out there can think what they want to think. People are going to feel like now is not the right time to buy. I don't care what the Fed does. That's the Fed rate. That's not mortgage rates. Mortgage rates aren't there. Mortgage rates are going to go to 3. I'm going to wait until they go to 3. My home's going to be worth $800,000 in the next 6 months. So I'm going to wait till then to sell it. That's okay. I'm not mad about any of them. I'm not upset with any of them. What I want to do is I want to understand. And when we understand why these people have these thoughts, then we can approach it a different way. So let's look at this. We can sit here and tell them all day long that the truth seems so obvious. The Fed rate is dropping. Mortgage rates are already dropping. The average mortgage rate is already about 6.29, 6.35, 6.34. The average 30-year mortgage rate is already around 6.3 right now. So the truth seems pretty obvious. Fed's going to drop rates. Unemployment numbers came out a little bit high, so they think the economy, it's not the economy is weakening, the job market is weakening, so they have to spike people to want to buy more or make it more affordable for them to buy by lowering rates, which is why the Fed will probably lower rates. So when we're sitting here talking about that, the truth is obvious to us. The truth is obvious to a lot of people. So why is it not obvious to everybody? Some people don't believe, and here's why. We have to understand that people have this psychological issue that's called cognitive dissonance. And what this means simply is that people have to ignore conflicting information to restore an internal consistency inside themselves. And that just reduces stress by giving them one less thing to believe that they were wrong about, or one less thing that they need to believe in that they had concerns with. It's this cognitive dissonance that causes people to continue thinking in the same fashion. You have to understand, and I've said this a ton of times before, one of the strongest forces in human nature is the need for people to stay consistent with their own identity. No one wants to be wrong. I hate being wrong. Everybody hates being wrong. But when we start looking at people and saying, wow, they just don't want to be wrong. They think the market's going to crash. So when we bring this new outside, not safe idea to them, because it's not safe for them to spend more money, go get another mortgage, go through the buying process, go through the selling process, and we bring this unsafe idea to them, they're trying to restore and ignore that conflict, that different information that doesn't resonate with them, to install internal consistency that makes them feel comfortable. It's called cognitive dissonance. Then, when we start compounding this with a few other factors, these are psychological factors. So let's just think about this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It is a cognitive, just a thought process bias where people with a low confidence in a specific area overestimate their own abilities. They overestimate their own abilities and knowledge about mortgages, about buying, about selling, about real estate, which just simply means they've relied on the information they've heard, whether they knew it was true or not. They relied on it. They became really solid in that information. They now have this belief, which comes right back to the cognitive dissonance. And anytime they hear something different, now all of a sudden they have a conflict inside of them. They push that conflict away and they don't want to believe it. So they don't know enough to realize how much they don't know. They don't know enough about real estate. They don't know that this market right over here is having multiple offers, like Sarah just told us she had multiple offers coming in. They don't know that buyers are getting rates in the 4.99% when they go to new construction, or 3.99% when they do 2-1 buy downs right now. They don't know that. So when they don't know that, they overestimate their comfort in the information and knowledge they know. And when they hear new information, they push it away because it's harmful for them. It's not safe for them to bring this new information in, and it conflicts with everything that they believe and think, and they've overestimated everything they believe and think. So it just leads to an overconfidence, and that leads to the cognitive bias, which we just talked about. This just becomes the systematic pattern that keeps people thinking. We see this in every avenue, and this is not just selective to certain people. It's not selective to buyers, sellers, your friends, your neighbors, people you don't like, Democrats, Republicans. It affects everybody. We see it in the political spectrum. We see it in the economic spectrum. We see it in every job. We see it everywhere. This is how people think. These are the things they go through. And then we have this last piece. It's called the backfire effect. It's an additional cognitive bias, a thought process that leads to a bias where when people are confronted with evidence that contradicts their deeply held beliefs, a person not only rejects the new information, but also strengthens their original stance. So when we try to tell them, this is what's going on, this is what the rates are, why do you not see this? The writing is on the wall. All they do is stonewall us. So I need you to see that you're going to come across people that are like this. And it's okay. It's not your job to change their mind. It's not your job to tell them, well, the rates are already down. Well, it's not your job to tell them that. Your first job is to build connection. Your first job is to get them to bring that terror barrier wall down, to make them feel safe with you. And if you try to just sit here and spout off information about the real estate market and about why now is a good time to buy, and you just go right into real estate mode, you jumped out of sales mode. Sales mode is people, communications, and connection. So I need you to stop trying to tell people why now is a good time to buy and start focusing on the person. It's like an internet lead. An internet lead comes in, it's never about the property they called on. It's never about that property. What it is it's about creating connection and communication with them. How do I get them to think that I'm safe? How do I get them to like me, know me, and trust me so I become the person that they want to use when they want to buy, when they want to sell? So all these processes here just make it difficult for a person to change their mind and can cause them to revert to beliefs that may not be true, just to remain consistent and to protect their own self-conception. People are just protecting themselves. So just think about that. The next time somebody disagrees with you and the writing is on the wall, oh my God, you're so stupid for not believing this. Just remember, wow, they're just trying to protect themselves. They're just trying to keep themselves safe. This new information that I brought to them, I made them feel unsafe with this new information. And that's okay. How can I make them feel safe? How do I make them feel safe? I become more like them. That's all I want to do. I want to build trust. So the first thing we're going to do is try to get their attention. When we get their attention, we're going to get a lot of people who they're happy to hear the news we're telling them. Hey, rates are coming down. They're happy to hear the market is shifting. Hey, we're about to see wave of buyers enter the market as rates cut. The key is knowing how that impacts your neighborhood specifically. Hey, timing the market's tricky, but right now sellers are moving, have a real window of opportunity before the herd arrives. So like there's a lot of people that are going to want to hear that and we're going to get their attention, but there's a lot of people who are going to push back on that, and that's okay. Your job is to go to build trust. So, but in order to get their attention, we got to take action. That's what the scripts are for. Once we take action, we get their attention. Once we get their attention, we find the ones who are interested. We got the ones who are interested and we can work with them. The other ones who aren't interested, now we have a job to say, okay, stop talking real estate. Stop trying to tell them. Let's connect with them. Let's build trust with them. Let's become the most valuable resource to them that also is the safest person in their world by building trust and communication. So we have to be able to build trust by doing these things here. And here's the cool part. Just because they think that way now does not mean that they cannot change their thought process and become a buyer in 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Don't write people off. There's this awesome thing called brain plasticity. Brain plasticity is the ability of your brain to rearrange its neurological connections. Yes, rearrange the neurological connections in your brain, the firing of thoughts and wiring of neurons that go to your body and create different emotions, feelings, actions, reactions. Neuroplasticity is the brain ability for the brain to rewire itself. So the more connection we build with them, the more people who are like themselves, we become more like them, but it also works in return. When I mirror and match them, what I'm doing is I'm pacing them. I'm going to become more like them. I'm going to try to use my mirror and matching skills of my body, my eye contact, my words, my tonality. I'm going to shake hands the way they do. I'm going to become more like them and I'm going to pace them. Once I get rapport, which is a feeling of commonality between us, now there's something called pacing and leading, where he was leading at first, didn't even realize he was leading. I was pacing what they were doing. Now I can start to lead because we've built rapport, which is a feeling of commonality and trust. So now when I have trust with them, I can start to lead a little bit. And you'll be able to feel when you may push it too far because you'll break rapport. So you'll be able to lead a little bit with different things that might allow you to lead into different conversations. But you got to be careful. We have to stay in rapport. So, but as we do that, their brain starts to rewire itself, starts to fire and wire new connections, starts to fire and wire new thought processes of feelings, emotions, and responses. With new information, people make new decisions. And when you are one of their trusted advisors and you're a trusted person to them, they start to listen to you more. And people like people who are like themselves, and she can become more like you just because of that feeling of commonality. That's pacing and leading. This is what sales is. This is what influence is. Switch on your brain, the key to peak happiness, Thinking and Health by Dr. Caroline Leaf is a great book on neuroplasticity. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing that. Anybody who wants to learn more about that, that is a great book to read. So these are the things that we need to be focusing on. We have all of these texts, all of these scripts that you can use over here. Trusted advisor, lots of headlines about rate cuts, but knowing how to play is what matters. I'll give you the real guidance to get under contract before the crowd rushes in. When can we chat? Anybody in your pipeline that was a buyer in the last 2 years, 24 months that did not buy, even back before that, anybody who was in COVID who didn't buy needs to hear this message. Right now, they need to hear this message. Big news, rates are about to dip big time and we're only days away from the first of many cuts. This is the moment smart buyers can move. Call me and I'll show you how to lock in before the herd comes. Let's keep leverage on your side. When can we chat? So again, let's start talking to more people, creating more attention, which gives us the ability, once we have their attention, to build trust with them. That's our job. More connections, more communication, more trust, more messages, be the media, control the narrative. We have to be better at controlling the narrative that is out there. The media is already starting to shift it. So you want to be the trusted resource. When you deliver these messages to your sphere, to your social media, to the people who already like you, know you, and trust you, and then they hear it from the media, it's going to go that much further. And they're like, wow, Chris was already talking about this. He already told me about all of these things. So that's your job. Today's the big day. If anybody has not already shared a video, anybody has not already shared out this message across social media, please go grab one of these text messages, turn it into a script, use the AI tools in Beggins University to be able to create your own script, to create your own message, use it. And if you want practice on your scripts, use the AI tool in there to go back and forth and to be able to read back and forth with the script, listen to your upswings, downswings, tonality, use the objection handlers, go through all the processes. All the tools are right there at your fingertips. Get ready to go. 2:30 today. Be on the lookout for that Fed rate cut that's coming today with a press conference. And everybody, let's get to work. With time to take action, the time to get ready is gone. We are no longer getting ready to be ready, to prepare to be ready. We are here. We are taking action. Let's go get it. Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys have an awesome day.